Hey everybody, we are back with Chapter 8 of Fortune Falls by Jenny Goebel. This video is being published with permission from Scholastic Inc. Chapter 8, The Wishing Well. The Wishing Well is Fortune Falls' oldest landmark. It sits in the middle of a grassy square surrounded by an old clock tower and other historical buildings, many of which have been turned into trendy boutiques where the Luckies all like to shop. Betsy was reading the copper plaque next to the well when I arrived. Toss a coin into this well, and to the water spirit tell your deepest wish or favorite spell. Fate favors those who luck befell. Doesn't it make you angry? Betsy asked without looking up from the plaque when I sidled up next against her. Basically, it's saying your wish won't come true unless you're already lucky. Fate only grants wishes to those who luck befell. I don't know, I said. I'm not sure anyone gets their wishes from this well anymore, not even the lucky. It was true. Most people believed the water spirit or nymph that had once dwelled here had abandoned us and our wishes long ago. But here we are, Betsy said. Yeah, here we are. I think what we both meant was, are we really this desperate? And the answer was yes. She fished 2 pennies from her pocket and held one out to me. It's not lucky, but I thought. Thanks, I said, taking it from her. I was too embarrassed to admit that my own pockets were empty, but not so proud that I'd reject the coin. Betsy stared silently at the well for just a minute before closing her eyes and tossing her penny in. Then she looked at me. I took a deep breath. What to wish for? The list was too long. To undo the curse, to keep my family safe, for Cooper's parents to let him hang out with me, to get my birthday wish, and to pass the luck test. It was too hard to choose. Finally, I closed my eyes. I wished to be lucky, I thought, hoping that would cover it all, and tossed the penny. I opened my eyes just in time to see the penny slide down the inside wall of the well and land on an uneven stone ledge. The coin was too far down to be retrieved, but not far enough to reach the water sprite, assuming there was still one living at the bottom of the well. So much for coming here being a good idea. Rotten luck, Betsy murmured. I know. Sorry I don't have another one. I shrugged. That's okay. It probably wouldn't make any difference. You must be wondering why I wanted you to meet me here. I looked straight at her and nodded. I heard you talking to Mrs. Swinton about dropping out of the spelling bee. I think you should stay in it. Why? I asked. Though what I meant was, why do you care? Because you should. Because you're a terrific speller. Because Felicia found a copy of the spelling list before we took the qualifying quiz and studied all the words ahead of time. Because someone needs to put her in her place. And because Betsy ended on a triumphant note. Because the last 5 spelling bee champions have all gone on to Flourish Academy. I thought you and Felicia were friends, I answered, unmoved. Well, not entirely unmoved. The part about the champions going to Flourish might have piqued my interest. But who's to say they weren't already lucky to begin with? We were. I don't know, okay? Yesterday, I asked her if she'd let me borrow one of her charms for the luck test. She'd just found a lucky penny, her second one that day, and I've been to her house. She has like a gazillion lucky things. It's not like letting me borrow one for a day would be a big deal. Uh-huh, I said, remembering Felicia's grating squeal when she picked up the second shiny coin and the date with Cooper she'd thought it'd bring her. It must have been after I'd seen them pass the cemetery gates that Betsy asked Felicia to lend her a charm. Let me guess. She said no. She said she'd love to help me out, but then I'd never learn to depend on my own luck and not be wasteful. And then she told Sabrina that she shouldn't let me borrow one of her charms either. I think she wants me to go to Baines. So you want me to stay in the spelling bee because you think I can beat Felicia? It felt strange to be having this conversation with Betsy, but it was nice to know that she thought I could win. And you want to see her lose at something for once because she's awful? Betsy scrunched up her nose. Yes, she admitted. Does that make me just as awful as she is? Not really. I couldn't imagine Felicia ever giving someone else a coin to toss into the wishing well. But why did you ask to borrow a charm? Why didn't you just use your birthday wish? The moment it slipped out, I regretted it. It was kind of a personal question, and Betsy and I didn't really know each other that well. She didn't seem angry with me for asking, but she did seem deflated. I almost said I was sorry, but then she blurted out, "My brother. I used it on my brother." You used your wish on your brother? I said, no less confused than before. I knew she had an older brother, but that's all I knew about her family. That, and I'd never thought of any of them as being unlucky. Yeah, one bad choice, and he wound up at Baines instead of Flourish, and now I'll probably end up at Baines too. Betsy went very still and closed her eyes again. I think she was trying to hold back the flood of whatever emotion she was feeling. I waited quietly to see if she'd say more, and sure enough, a moment later, Betsy reopened her eyes and breathed in deeply through her freckled nose. She seemed a bit more composed and ready to tell her story. He turned 13 a few days ago. I thought there was a good chance he wouldn't survive the day if I didn't wish for it on my birthday. My birthday was just last week, she explained. We were born almost exactly a year apart. Anyway, not all the kids who go to Baines live past their 13th birthdays. You know, it's one reason Baines is so terrifying, I offered. I was going to say safeguarded. They have to be prepared for all types of disasters, but terrifying works too. We exchanged fleeting smiles. Our parents won't forgive him for not using his 12th birthday wish to pass the luck test. They say he threw his life away, and it's all because he wanted to be better at playing the guitar without actually having to practice. I guess he thought he had enough luck to pass the test without his wish. But he was wrong. He's crazy good now, but he can't even play it at Baines. They wouldn't let him bring his guitar with him. Something about the strings being too dangerous. At some point while she was talking, Betsy had turned back to the well and was staring deep inside the black hole. She laughed cold-heartedly. Mom and Dad think I used my wish for the luck test. They're absolutely going to freak when they find out I threw away my future for him. They'll probably disown us both. I wasn't sure what to say, so I just stood there until she finally tore her attention away from the well and turned back to me. Do the spelling bee, Sadie. It may not seem like you have much of a chance, but any chance is better than none. It's strange. I thought as I walked home alone, Betsy actually seemed to believe that hers was a lost cause and that mine wasn't, that the spelling bee could somehow be my lucky break. I wondered if she would have felt differently if I told her about the broken mirror. Why hadn't I? Maybe because having someone believe in me made me feel like I could actually believe in myself. I had survived the storm last night and the downed electrical wire this morning. I was already committed to dodging fate's blows. Maybe I could incorporate the spelling bee into my plans. Maybe I really could get a winning streak rolling with it. Win the spelling bee, make my birthday wish, pass the luck test. Win spelling bee, make birthday wish, pass luck test. It sounded so simple when I broke it down. I hurried home with an unfamiliar vigor, darting over the cracks in the sidewalk with a bold spring before bursting through the front door. There must have been a gleam in my eye as well, a light Mom hadn't seen in a while because she seemed taken aback. What's gotten into you? She asked, a smile blossoming on her face. She didn't even ask where I'd been. You seem so chipper. My mom had the sleepy, half-open, blue-green eyes of a dreamer. Staring at her, all I could do was smile back and pretend that my heart was really leaping. That I'd found the cheerfulness she so badly craved for me, for all of us, even though in actuality, my energy was spurred more by grit than happiness. I qualified for the school spelling bee, I told her, and I'm anxious for my birthday to come. Oh, Sadie, I'm so proud of you. All the pretending was worth it to see her smile reach full bloom. And that reminds me, I've been meaning to ask you what kind of ice cream cake you want. Cookie dough, pistachio cream, Neapolitan? Pistachio, I said. It wasn't my favorite, but I knew it was hers. Fantastic. I'll stop by the Dairy Freeze after work tomorrow and place an order. Petey and I picked up fresh apples at the store on our way home, and now I'm off to my room to study, unless you need anything. Mom had her back to me and was already walking down the hall. No, I answered. I'll probably study for the bee, then take Wink for a walk. Sounds good, Sadie, Mom said. I retrieved an apple from the kitchen and took a bite. Granny Smith this time, and the tartness made me pucker. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and opened the study booklet Mrs. Swinton had given both Felicia and me. Tips and tricks for spelling bee success. The first page read, I imagined Felicia taking one glance at the booklet and immediately tossing the entire thing in the trash. When had she ever needed tips and tricks? Me, on the other hand, tips and tricks were how I survived. I learned that an S and C were often used for the S sound in words that came from Latin, words like susceptible and visceral. I read about words that came from Arabic and Asian languages too. I'd never given much thought to where the words I used came from, but just reading about them made my world seem bigger somehow. Words that came from French and German and even ancient Greek had been floating around in my thoughts and connecting me with other people without me even knowing. That felt a bit like magic, and it made me sad to think I might not be able to compete at districts even if I won the bee. When my eyes burned from staring at the booklet too long, I called to Wink. She came thudding into the kitchen and then nuzzled my leg with her nose. As I stood from the table, she excitingly pushed against my thigh. Okay, okay, I said. She seemed to have a sixth sense about walks, always knowing when I was about to take her for one without me having to tell her. Now that I devoted a decent chunk of time to the first thing on my list, it was time to move on to the spelling bee. Win the spelling bee, move on to the second. Win the spelling bee, make my birthday wish, pass the luck test. So what if Felicia never lost at anything? If I studied hard enough, it was bound to pay off. And so what if I'd never blown out all my birthday candles? Not even once. Last year, Dad's funeral had fallen on my birthday, and no one felt up for cake. The year before that, I was at the hospital with pneumonia. Then when Wink was a puppy, she tugged a tablecloth and pulled the cake and all the candles down with it. There were a few years I'd come close, but time after time, there'd been candles left flickering. My memories almost dragged me down, almost extinguished my drive entirely, but when Wink nudged me with her nose again and the flame rekindled. No, I absolutely couldn't bear to be torn from her and everyone and everything that mattered to me. This year, I was going to blow them all out. And for me to blow out all 12 candles with one single breath, my lungs definitely had to be in tip-top shape. Wink and I weren't going for a walk. We were going for a run. All right, come back to the next video for Chapter 9 of Fortune Falls.